Chat. Chat, my computer blue screened. um, that was unlucky, I guess. Wait, the fucking new Hoyo launcher doesn't find my Genshin! What do you mean?! Fucking worthless ass launcher, man. Okay. Yeah, bro, Etienne wanted some raw meat, but he didn't want me to. I don't know, man. I don't know where I'm taking this joke. My computer died of cringe. Yeah, I guess so. Hi. Don't mention the raw meat. I'll do what I want. That overlay is a bit delayed. Is it? No, it's not. It's literally... It's not delayed at all. What are you yapping about? What are you yapping about? Bro. Test. They're like... These are happening at exactly the same time. There might be some stream delay, but that's not the same as chat overlay being delayed, you know? Like... Me when I yap. Any yappers in chat? Have you seen this? Oops, I don't want to do that. I wanted to click back in, but whatever. Why is Visual so good if you can't cancel out of her long ass burst? You can cancel out of it, just swap out. It really is that simple. When are we tackling this world quest list? Listen, okay? I will do every single world quest without ending stream, all of them in one big subathon, the day they decide to voice them. How does that sound for a deal? Paimon VA in shambles. You know what? I'll make an exception for Paimon. If they don't want to voice Paimon because it'd be too much work for Paimon's VA, I'm okay with that. I'm just being considerate, you know? Hell, if they want to improve our immersion, they can voice all the other lines and then just remove the Paimon voice lines altogether. How does that sound? How does that sound, huh? Does that sound like a fair deal to you? What if I join your call and voice the characters? Interesting offer. Unfortunately, Your mother. Sorry. Sorry, that went too far. You're right. You're right. You're right. That went too far. Why am I like what am I doing? Like straight up, what the fuck am I doing? Oh, I still have the I hate this place sometimes. Oh, am I an idiot? I am. Fuck, you actually need to take the... Ah! This place sucks. This place fucking sucks. It's okay. The Jeff hates France confirmed. That's right! France fucking sucks! Paris this? Paris that? How about you put a Paris these nuts in your mouth, huh? Yeah, that's what I thought! France, suck my balls! Quick question about Fischl with stringless R5 with Kazaha. Would it be too much damage percent? Nope. Fuck. Who reveals stuff in Fontaine again? Any knowers? Is it Lenny? I think it's Lenny. What? Oh yeah! There's no water here. Are there still barrel cocks? Yeah. Easy clap. +1. I'll get enough so that if I get this same thing again, I can do it without having to do this shit again. Who uses barrel cocks for Ascension again, chat? I know this was one of the questions I got wrong on the on the fucking quiz. Charlotte, right? Is she the only one? It's kind of crazy. Where the... Oh, there it is. There it is. And then there's another one like here, but it's not here, so it's got to be up somewhere. Chemin de l'espoir. Oui, oui. Woo! Sorry. That wasn't me. 28% incident? Listen, okay. How does Emilie compare to Arlecchino and Neuvillette in terms of... Okay, calm down, buddy. Emilie is a character that does not enable anything, and that is not an on-fielder. Or, like, not like a main damage dealer that has great upside from being on-field, right? What that means is that you can't really compare her to characters like Nvidia. Like, she's not a character that buffs, so she doesn't have great synergy with any team, right? Her application isn't useful, she doesn't give a buff, like, all she does is damage, right? But it's not enough damage that you'd really want to use her as a, like, main carry. Although it is not that far away from it. So I'd say, like, is she Dendro Xiangling? Not really, because Xiangling's Pyro can be used to enable a lot of stuff. She can't be used as an enabler, like, at all. Like she effectively doesn't have an element, right? You can read her kit as her not having an element, but being reliant on having pyro units on your team. Do you look into Emilie ER requirements at all? To just got like 170 for solo Dender and seems high. I mean, it's gonna depend on the team, right? If he's looking at like a Risley team where Risley's a fucking worthless ass unit that doesn't generate any energy, then like maybe that makes sense. You know, perhaps. It's gonna depend on the team, but we can take a look at her ER requirements if you'd like. I don't mind. I do not mind. Okay. We can take a look. Thank goodness it automatically saved my sheet, my book one. Thank goodness my book one is still there. Pog. Okay. No cam. Oh, my bad. Let's put this at the end. We can come back to it whenever. Okay, so um You can probably EQ. It's hitting. You're generating one particle every 3 seconds. So that's like 7, 8 particles in a rotation. If we're what team? What team are we looking at? What team do you guys want to look at? Arlecchino burning? So what? Arlecchino, Bennett, Kazuha? Or Zhongli? Probably more like Zhongli. Grizzly? I want to look up his fucking particle generation. I know it's ass, but I don't remember what it is. I think it's like 4, maybe 5. Ganyu Burn Melt? ÉMILIE is not enough Dendro to sustain Burn Melt. So you're gonna need to have ÉMILIE plus Dea or ÉMILIE plus Shangling, which means no Kazuha or no Zhongli or no Bennett. So yeah, that's kind of a yikes, in my opinion. Grizzly doesn't suffer from it as much because he can actually run Toma without it being that shit. Fine. Yeah, so it's 5 particles. We're doing Bennett. What would we do? Bennett Shangling or Bennett Toma? What do you guys think? Bennett Toma? Alright. Spotify overlay. You're right. Anyone on 5 in this team? Toma, yeah. Fine idea. Huh. I guess it is the kind of shit energy, huh? I really thought it was gonna be better. Yeah, that makes sense. 170. 170 makes sense. Do we not put ÉMILIE on 5 too? Maybe you would in a team like this, but you don't want to have to. Like, he is a damage dealer. You don't really want her on 5. Burst every other rotation. Might be worth it, yeah. Why does this keep reappearing? Like, every time it... Why? I think it's because it's auto recovered. Let me save it. Whatever. Browse. Fucking. Genshin sheets. Whatever. Book 1. Okay. Now if I close this. Okay. Now it's gone. Cool. All right. But yeah, like without her ult in this team, her damage drops by pretty decent amount. If you're ulting every other rotation, you lose out on like about 20% of your damage. It's kind of rough. Not really what you want. Like it's okay, but yeah. If you're playing her in a team, or like in this team, right? Like this, Emilie, Bennett, Farina, Tonli, or Toma. But this is gonna be Grizzly. This is gonna be Harry. Probably more like 5-3. Farina. 8. Bennett. 25. You can probably get 2 Bennett eases because your carry is a lot more flexible here, so 4.5. Toma, 4. A team like this, where your requirements are a little bit better, but they're still kind of high. And that's crazy. Well, this is still kind of high. Although I guess in this team, if you get your burst a bit later, it's not the end of the world. You just use it a bit later. Oh, wait. No, you're right. Farina isn't non-caught. Probably more like 4-4. That doesn't change that much, though, honestly. But Farina can be on 5. But, yeah. Because this isn't, like, the highest particle generation team. Okay, this is a lot more reasonable. I know TGS posted a new Emilie video. I'm down to watch that. That was posted before the buffs, right? Video posted hours before buffs. Classic. Huh. Alright. Is that a C2 Nahida? Oh wait, it's muted for you guys. Fuck.
Guys, today we'll tell you how to properly build Emilie. Let's go. First, let me clear something up. Emily is a character that needs burning applied on opponents to deal more raw damage herself. However, this doesn't mean that the burning damage specifically is particularly relevant. On the previous video made on her, several people were wondering why I was talking about Emily's raw damage when she's on burning teams, so clearly she should be built with elemental mastery to increase the burning damage. You're wrong! The synergy between Emily and
Holy! There was some hatred in that.
mastery to increase the burning damage. You're wrong!
Like, you can tell he's a little frustrated. Just a little bit actually frustrated. It's shining through.
Energy between Emily and burning is completely and solely based on her doing more raw damage, which scales of attack. Thanks to burning, she gets damage bonuses and also she gets to deal more hits, but nothing in her kit increases the burning damage itself. To make an example, she's very similar to Navia, because the latter needs crystallites to deal more damage, but she doesn't change how crystallite itself works. As a result, building her with elemental mastery is just detrimental and not ever worth it.
60 burning procs is not happening, by the way.
Expand on this, she wants very typical offensive stats, so attack, dendro damage bonus, crit.
That
Additionally,
is-
she will need some energy recharge in most of the teams where you put her in. In fact, while her burst cost is of just 50,
This is incredibly optimistic for the EM sense, by the way. In AoE, enemies are rarely close enough together that they're actually taking damage from AoE burning. Burning's AoE is pretty small. Like, it's not Kazuha, yeah, and they'll be close together for a tiny little bit. When Kazuha has burning ownership, because he just triggered Swirl. That's how it works. Burning ownership is whoever applied either Pyro or Dendro last. Which means that when they're grouped from Kazuha, Kazuha has burning ownership. By the time maybe reapplies Dendro to like one of the enemies, because her AoE is ass, they're not really grouped enough. But yeah, like 60 burning procs is effectively right in a... I would assume this team is... Maybe this team is trying to do 15-second rotations. I'm not actually sure. But like, in a team like this, if you're doing a 20-second rotation, right? 60 burning procs is 3 per seconds. 4 per seconds is what happens in total. So that would assume 75% ownership from ÉMILIE. She is going to be getting less than 25%. Because her application is slower than Arlecchino, Kazuha, maybe not Bennett, but then Arlecchino's and Kazuha by a pretty significant amount. Like, your highest burning ownership in this team is going to be Arlecchino. Maybe Kazuha because he gets ownership as the enemies are grouped. Like, maybe you get a little bit more from him. But it's probably going to be like 40 Arlecchino, 40 Kazuha, 20 ÉMILIE. So you're not getting 60 burning procs from ÉMILIE. And like, my cam is showing it, it is hiding it. This says 60 burning procs from ÉMILIE.
energy recharge in most of the teams where you put her in. In fact, while her burst cost is of just 50, which is not a lot, she would be used as the only Dendro character on the team most of the time. Plus, she's the type of unit that stays off-field for most of the rotation, so her energy income is definitely not the best. In
Yeah.
this situation, her energy energy requirements can be pretty high, potentially forcing you to use an energy recharge stance. The requirements get much lower if you can add a second Dendron team, but I have to be honest, I haven't really been impressed by this eventuality so far. The reason kinda goes without saying, other Dendro characters in the game don't have the capability to deal high damage to opponents that are afflicted by burning like ÉMILIE has. So in most cases, adding somebody like Nahida on team would have the sole function to support ÉMILIE, which is not a great use case. Anyway, you can even think of using her burst every other rotation to nullify her energy requirements, but personally I don't like this alternative. Her burst not only deals a lot of damage, but it also summons the elemental skill lamp on field for the rest of the rotation. It's a 2-in-1 ability, and as far as I understand, if you use the burst you should never need to use the elemental skill in a rotation. Why couldn't AI be like this, bro? Anyway, just like the burst for the damage it deals and the quality of life it has. Artifact sets wise there are two options.
Okay, I don't think the E animation time is long enough that that matters too much, so I'm gonna be honest. Let's take a look at her damage. ER Sands versus burst every other rotation. Right, so we take this, we copy it here, take this, okay? So if we burst every other rotation, it's this. ER Sends is this. So it's very, very similar. Going ER Sands versus bursting every other rotation. Bennett Attack. Bennett Attack is included here. It's not included here because her E's not doing damage with Bennett buff in a team where you're not keeping her on field. Because she doesn't snapshot. Noob question, why ÉMILIE with Harlequino? Isn't she going to kill herself even with the damage reduction without shields since she can't heal? I mean, if you never use her burst, yes. But because the only character that... because most of your burning damage is going to happen without... on a character that doesn't have a lot of EM, your burning self damage won't be that high. And, in most situations, you're going to be clearing the chamber long before your Harlequino takes enough damage for it to matter.
The Reverie set that increases the character damage if the opponent is burning applied on him, or the Deep Food set that will apply Dendro resistance reduction to all the opponent's ÉMILIE will hit. This of course assumes that there is no character on the team that can hold the Deep Food in ÉMILIE's stead. Typically it can go either way, but it's worth mentioning that Deep Food scales better.
Maybe it's obvious in hindsight, but why would you run a cryo unit for a burn team? You get consistent melts from burn? Yeah, you do. That's the main reason. A cryo unit gets to take advantage of the aura being consistently pyro on the enemies. But I don't know if Risley is strong enough that matters. We'll have to see.
With other stats than the Reverie does. The reason is that resistance reduction becomes a more significant multiplier the more the other stats increase, but they stay pretty similar overall, so it depends on which set you have the better stats on. Still, there are plenty of non-Dendro characters that can hold the Deep Food set for ÉMILIE on her teams, like Zhongli, Toma, even Shenling in some cases. For Deep Food to take effect, it just requires the skill or burst to hit the opponent, it doesn't have to be a Dendro character. So if you can give Deep Food to someone else, definitely go Reverie on ÉMILIE. Some people might think that Golden Troop does well too, with the assumption that ÉMILIE is an elemental skill damage dealer, but this is not accurate. While she deals plenty of elemental skill damage, she also deals plenty of non-elemental skill damage, like the passive, the elemental burst, and this just lowers the...
Is the passive not considered skill damage? I don't actually know if it is. It is not considered elemental skill damage, okay.
value of the golden troop. It's just an
Why would they type that instead of the type of damage is considered to be?
alternative
Okay,
option,
it's
not
fine.
really that
It's
great.
fine,
So
whatever.
yeah, either deep wood or rubbery. Now let's talk about the weapons, but first let me remind you that if you enjoy my channel but you haven't subbed yet, please consider doing so because it really makes me notice your support, and also go check the Wuthering Waves channel. So weapons, her signature is amazing, just very good. It gives crit through the secondary stat, a lot of attack, damage bonuses, and energy refunds. So it's not only the best option in terms of damage, but it also makes her very easy to build on most teams with the energy thing. Surprisingly, among forcers, she doesn't exactly have many options because a lot of spears give elemental mastery, HP %, so things she doesn't have much of a use for. The good old reliable deathmatch is decent, but honestly there is not much else. As a strictly free-to-play option, there is Missy Wind Spear, which was given back in the 3.1 event and gives a lot of attack, so it's nice, but still it's an event-locked weapon, so if you weren't playing back then, just go fuck yourself, I guess. However, Emily is a sub DPS and not a main DPS, so on most of her teams, her damage contribution is not the highest, and her missing out on potentially 30% of damage is not.
I'm gonna be honest, this feels like a character where Blackcliff isn't that bad. So let's take a look at Blackcliff. Blackcliff is high base attack, right? No, it's not. The other Blackcliffs are 565, but this one is 510 for some reason. We don't have this, and we get 55.1. So no stack Blackcliff is like 9% worse. Gonna take 2 stacks to be as good as Deathmatch. Yeah. You're never getting 2 stacks on an off-fielder, let's be honest. Yeah.
Not the biggest of deals. So even if you don't have her signature, it's fine, and besides there are pretty good 5-star alternatives like Homa and Golfy Lightning, so if you have this, it's even more than fine.
Okay, and if we take a look at ER Sands versus Favlance. Yeah, it's like 5%. Favlance is about 5% behind without taking into account the fact that it reduces your ER requirements on the rest of your team. Which means Favlance is probably competitive in those teams where you have high ER requirements.
And with this, I'm done for today. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and also go check the color end guide I made a few days ago. Bye bye. Guys, today we'll tell you how to properly.
Okay, business. How much of a DPS increase does ÉMILIE get from the buffs? About a 20% DPS increase. The DPS increase you get from the skill increase is about like 15%, and on the ult is like 40%. But her skill is more damage than the ult, so it averages out to about 20%. Is ER Sands better than bursting every other rotation? It seems to be very similar. Right, this is... This is bursting every other rotation. This is ER Sands on Deathmatch. Which is... a 0.4% difference. So, yeah, pretty fucking small. Is Scar and Spine gonna be decent? That's actually a good question. It might be. So if you manage to actually fully save an ER Sands, it is better than Deathmatch. But you might not be able to, because it's not a full ER Sands worth. If you lose 3 attack percent subs out of it, it's still better than Deathmatch. Okay. So it probably is a pretty reasonable option, yeah. Is the cash gonna be better? No. And we can look at it too, right? Like, I don't mind. So catch is what, 510 base? So this was 32%. Good value plus 4%. There divided by 8 plus 1. Wait, that's not bad. Oh fuck, cash might be better than deathmatch. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do an actual proper weapon sheet for her. Let's do that. Uh...
Staring into my eyes is ill-advised.
Shut up. Wait, what? File, save as, weapon sheets, ÉMILIE. ÉMILIE 1. Okay. ÉMILIE. Okay. Base HP 13,568. Base attack 335. Base defense 730. None of this bullshit. Well, she'll get some, but yeah. For damage ascension, pole army up. Okay. She gets damage percent. We're gonna have to put it somewhere else. That's fucking annoying. Ugh. Okay. This. Yeah. Set bonus. Let's do this. Put it on the burning set for now. External buffs. What do we look at for now? Let's look at Arlecchino. Arlecchino Toma. No, Arlecchino Bennett Zhongli. Arlecchino Bennett Kazuha. Let's do Zhongli for now. Elemental E. Do I have any actual skill damage percent? I don't think so. So I can just put the Ascension passive here. And it'll be fine. So Elemental E. We have 80% plus 67.3% times 2. Plus 65.5%. Plus 142.8%. Times 22. Plus 600% times 3. Yeah. Elemental Q. 369.2% times 4. Okay. I should have the burning, but I don't care. Yeah, White Tassel is gonna be pretty awful, huh? Okay. None of this bullshit. Calamity Queller. What uptime do we have? Pretty good. Yeah, sure. Let's keep it at that. And I guess we just don't put in attack sense. We can use her. We can look at her signature. Lumidus Elegy R1. Base attack 608. Attack percent 15. Damage percent 36. Crit 33.1. .24 energy, which is effectively 46.6 attack. Yeah. Okay. Okay, sure. Sure, buddy. What's the default free-to-play option gonna be? I guess Missive Windspear? Fucking hell. Let's look at the catch. Volume up? It's already up. I'm not turning it up more than this. I think this might be the biggest gap. I've ever seen. Hmm. She has no free-to-play options. It's not that she has no free-to-play options. It's that her signature does too much. Like, you get 33% crit rate, you get 15% attack, you get 36 damage percent, and then you get enough energy that you can switch from ER sands to attack sands, which is another 46.6% attack. So effectively, your passive is 60% attack, 36 damage percent. As a comparison, Arlecchino's signature is 36 damage percent, and that's it, basically. This has 60% attack on top of it. This is probably the biggest R1 bait I've ever seen. Why is Arlecchino sig above Jadewing Spear? I haven't finished doing everything. I think I still have some weird shit going on this with the motion value. Yeah. Yeah. I still had the additional motion value you got from the Bond of Life left over from the Arlecchino sheet. Coward Spine is also probably wrong. There's a bunch of stuff that I need to change. So Skyward Spine. We're not really getting any of this. And then the motion value is also not there. Makes it pretty bad, but we also get... Not exactly. Let's say... minus 15%, let's say. Three sats worth of attack percent. Pretty decent option. She really doesn't have a good free-to-play option. Again, it's not that she doesn't have a good free-to-play option, alright? Because, like, you look at the free-to-play option versus the, like, standard, or, like, the stat stick 5 stars. I look at Homa, because I haven't removed the amount of stacks from Jadewing Spear that Arlecchino gets, right? And, like, you look at that difference, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty normal, right? Between a free-to-play option and a 5-star stat stick. And then you look at this shit and you're like, oh. Oh. Although, okay, wait. We gotta change this because she doesn't get this for everything, but she does get it for her ult. Which makes shit really annoying for this. My sheet isn't properly built for that, but let's go take a look. Elemental Burst, effective attack. Actually, before I do that, let's save this. File, save as. Off field. Yeah. So, when we're off field, we don't have this, and we get Bennett buff on the ult. Elemental Q. Shut the fuck up. Elemental Q effective attack is gonna take the attack and do plus 1,000 basically. Oh my god. Alright. Alright, chat. I have asked the Genshin scientist if he wants to go on over and yap about Emilie with me. Hello. What's up?
Hello. Everything good.
Oh man.
Is my volume good?
Sorry, what?
Is my volume good?
I think you're on the wrong mic. I think your Discord settings are fucked. You sound like your mic sounds really scuffed.
Let me check. It'll be the right mic.
Maybe it was just like as you joined.
Maybe the connection. Is it good now?
It sounds better, yeah. I think it was just as you joined. It was a little fucky,
Okay,
but
okay.
it sounds fine now, yeah. Man, I'm doing calcs on her weapons right now, and man, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, the signature is something else on this character.
God. I'm getting like about a 60% difference between signature and like free to play options.
Free-to-play option being the Missy Wind Spear.
Yeah, I have Missive Windspear and the Catch very close to one another.
Yeah, because the energy and the catch does something.
Have
And
you
now
seen
the
the
burst
buffs,
is
by
better.
the way?
Yeah, I haven't calculated them yet because I've been out until now.
Yeah.
But they're pretty easy to estimate. The burst is now more relevant, I guess.
Yeah, the
Because,
burst is like the burst got buffed by about 40%, the skill by like
Yeah.
15. Overall, it's about a 20% buff, but it does make it so that the catch is a bit better than it was pre changes.
Yeah. I saw your comment under my
Yeah.
video that I posted yesterday. Now you have to do it again. Oh, I think most of it is still alright because
yeah.
I was even in the camp that preferred to use the burst heavy rotation, which is now even more incentivized, I guess.
I looked at it. I honestly feel like it kind of doesn't matter. Like I feel like you kind of either go ER Sands or attack Sands based on whichever one has better substats, because the difference between attack Sands burst every other rotation and ER Sands burst every rotation is like incredibly minimal.
What could the children be
Yeah.
up to?
Yeah. Previously it was minimal. Now I don't know because I haven't calculated yet. But yeah, how do you like her now? Do you like her better?
I'm not sure, honestly. Like I still feel like she's kind of limited in ways that don't feel the greatest. But I feel like she at least does enough damage to justify her place now. I felt like before it was like she's like a slight upgrade over Xiangling.
In
That
single
is like
target.
so much more locked into single target. And like I'd heard that her range like was a little fucked, and maybe it needed the enemy to be entirely within her radius to even like to target it, because enemies that were really close weren't getting targeted at all, and like it wasn't attacking anything.
Mm-hmm.
But they increased the range and they buffed her damage, so like now I feel like it's a lot more justified. Like she justifies her
now
place in teams a lot more.
now the range is almost as large as the abyss range. I think, like the abyss.
Yeah, it's pretty
area. Like
big. It was a pretty big increase.
yeah, now it's 16.5 meters, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I was more optimistic about Emily than you were probably. So now it buffs even more. But maybe in some areas I was a bit too optimistic, which specifically maybe I overestimated the burning uptime on her teams, even on monopirate teams, because her Dendro application is not Nahida level.
Yeah, it's not
So
the best.
you won't have burning up all the time, and so on some hits you will miss the damage bonus from the passive, the sense generation for the first passive, which drops the attack that is now 600% motion value, could be a bit inconsistent. So in those areas I probably overestimated her a bit, but now with the buffs she's looking pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly I don't know. I feel like she's in a good spot now. I feel like the buffs were actually kind of warranted. And I feel like she's in a much better spot now. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I wish she was. I wish her dead drop was good enough that you could use her as like your sole source of pyro application, like you can with Nahida. I think it's really sad that you can't.
They're very cautious on application for Dendro characters. Any Dendro characters that isn't Nahida in general.
Yeah. Aware. It is what it is.
And yeah, the only complaint people could have is that her signature is very strong. Now even stronger with the burst being better.
Yeah.
And the Constellation one really makes her much more consistent.
Let me check. I don't actually know what it does. Let me check. It's just 20% more damage. And
I haven't calculated the upgrade for Constellation 1 yet, but I've seen some estimates from other people which are pretty big.
yeah, that makes
But
sense.
yeah, the signature in particular is something else. I think it's one of the best signatures we've gotten in recent history.
Yeah, I mean
it's a bit more
it's like Chiori's signature, but without like Cinnabar Spindle or Harbinger existing. You know?
Yeah. I guess the more acceptable part is that she's still a sub DPS. So you know.
Although honestly, looking at these numbers, she's doing good. She's pulling her weight in these teams, you know?
Yeah. Depending on the team, it could be or getting a damage increase by even like 30 or 40% can have a big team impact. Maybe on teams that have a very good carry like Arlecchino or those Nubilet vape teams, it matters relatively less.
Yeah.
It depends.
Oh, also, I wanted to tell you, I think you're slightly underestimating Favalance.
Oh, completely as expected opinion from the sub and
But like literally just damage. Looking at Favalance with attack sands versus deathmatch with ER sands, Favalance is like 7% behind. It's like about as good as Missive Windspear basically. Plus, like that's without taking into account the fact that you're reducing ER requirements on the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think it can be situationally acceptable in terms of options.
Yeah, like as a free-to-play option, I think it should be the default over Missive Windspear.
Oh, the thing is, I tend not to add too many weapons in my chart because then
That's fair.
the bar for each weapon gets very, very tiny, and
Yeah.
I don't like how it looks. So the complaint I got the most is that I forgot about the Jade Wing Spear.
You didn't forget about Jade Wing Spear. It's just kind of whatever.
Yeah, but many people have it, so they got
Mhm.
pissed.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, also Skyward Spine is like pretty decent as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. I It feels so weird how burst reliant she is, even though she's kind of not. Like her burst is like the main thing that makes so many of these weapons more competitive. But like it's not even that big of a portion of her damage.
Well, it's just that if you have to use it, you have to invest on energy, and
Mhm.
on this with the signature, you basically don't have to invest on energy.
Yeah.
So it really makes it skyrocket in terms of calculated damage. And if you assume a playstyle where the burst is not in every rotation, then the signature loses some value, relatively speaking. But now I don't know if that's worth it anymore because the burst is pretty great, especially in situations where you're facing more than one enemy.
Yeah, the burst is like her main source of AoE. That's definitely gonna be rough in AoE situations if you're going a low ER build.
Yeah, she's definitely a character that changes a bit depending on how many opponents you're facing, because if you're facing a lot of opponents, then burning also becomes more consistent, I feel like. And so the sands become more consistent and her passive becomes more...
I don't know if it actually is more consistent unless you have another Dendro, because she's still only applying Dendro to one enemy. So the burning is like still pretty similar, I feel.
I thought she could change target. Like, she attacks every 1.5 seconds. So,
Yeah, I mean, she can
like,
change targets, that's true.
yeah.
What did I want to say? I wanted to say or what it was. Oh no. Oh yeah, I also think it's interesting how when you're playing her on field, her signature becomes worse. Like, it's not worse, but like the gap between it and the other options is like a lot smaller.
Because of the energy.
Yeah, because of the energy. Like, that 24
Oh, well.
energy is an insane amount, and like when you don't need it, it's like, oh, okay, well, cool, I guess.
Yeah, I wish like they could, in retrospect, like add these energy refunds to signatures that they really needed, like Scarlet of Sands, like for Sino. It's a bit of
Yeah.
a shame that there's so many signatures like Newbie Lads or now Emily's have energy refund. Then characters like Sino got shafted in comparison.
They learned. They learned from the Fav propaganda. But yeah, I also actually, now that I think about it though, maybe if you play her on field, you just burst twice per rotation, or like one and a half times per rotation, and the signature is still really good.
Yeah, and also the burst provides a lot of instantaneous Dendro application that can help make her even more consistent. So I guess, yeah.
Because it's a 13.5 second cooldown. So if you actually have a lot of energy generation, like, yeah, you can use it more than once per rotation.
Especially if you're playing a double Dendro team. Like,
yeah.
I'll talk to you in private about that Virgin team that was.
Yeah,
I was
how's
cooking.
that going?
Still in hot waters.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of double Dendro. I feel like it just doesn't really synergize with her kit at all to play a second Dendro unit.
Well, they really designed her to be used as the only Dendro character in the team, because you have their signature giving energy, and her base damage is also high enough in those scenarios that you're not incentivized to bring a second Dendro. But it does have, like, having a second Dendro character that can help with her energy and also hold like in the case of Nahida, that is an extremely good deep food holder because of her AoE
Yeah, that's
and
true.
guaranteed AoE.
But so is Xiangling. True!
Yeah, Xiangling deep food.
Yeah. But yeah,
Is it actually worth it to give it to Xiangling on Monopyro? Like, I haven't checked.
I'm not sure. I feel like in practice, no, because your AoE kind of matters a lot more. But it might actually cheat better in single target. I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
Well, if it doesn't reflect in the actual game, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Although I think it is really interesting how like Kazuha is gonna perform a lot better in practice than he will in cheats with her, because like when he uses his E, he guarantees like that he gets burning ownership, and he groups enemies.
Yep. Yeah.
And like it's something that
Kazuha.
like I was fucking around with for a while with like basically suicide Kazuha of like burning the enemies and just using your E and then you just get one shot.
Yeah, even now it feels kind of decent in AoE. Like,
Yeah, like you get fucking one shot right now, which makes it feel like shit. But like with Emily's resistance, it's gonna make it feel a lot less bad in that, and like the AoE is actually gonna be relevant.
Yeah. I wonder with Arlecchino if the reduction is enough for it to feel like for you to not get close to that, because you still get a bit of damage.
I think
And
so, because you're not like while Arlecchino is on field, she's gonna have a decent amount of that burning ownership, and when she has burning ownership, burning doesn't do any damage. Right? Like realistically, the burning damage on enemies is gonna be like 400 when she has ownership. On you, it's gonna be what, like 100 basically. Like it's basically nothing. Less
and
than
also
that.
she has a reduction of herself, which scales with the other reduction, I guess.
Yeah, true. There's also that. Like the self damage from burning when she has ownership is gonna be really small, but when Kazuha has ownership, it's gonna be a lot higher.
Yeah, but it's not too many takes of Kazuha from what I've seen. Like, mostly when he goes on field, uses the skill, then he loses ownership after a few seconds.
Yeah. Honestly, it might be a situation where like if you're scared of dying, you just don't use Kazuha Burst to make sure you don't take too much self-burning damage.
Hopefully the reduction is enough, because otherwise it kind of defeats the point.
Yeah, it's it's really funny though. What's the domain that I guess VV domain. I kind of want to. I never looked at it with Arlecchino. I want to see the self damage.
In terms of the teams where she can be played in, I'm not too bothered by the restrictions, because I think burning is fairly versatile as a reaction. Like, if we're comparing it to Chiori, I think she's definitely less restricted, and also deals more roll damage now. So she's in a position where, like, her kit makes a lot of sense and is also above average in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like artificially restricted characters in general, but the fact that they removed the quicken restriction, I like a lot. Like, she already has inherent anti-synergy with quicken, because you're gonna have less burning uptime, so that's already like an argument against it. But like now she actually can still be played in quicken teams, which I really like. I think it's really good that they removed it.
Yeah, it helps Sino potentially, because she's a multi-wave solution potentially, but her damage is still not the greatest, even with the removal of the nerfs of the handicap with quicken, because her elemental skill will deal significantly less damage. She won't get her A1 either, so.
Yeah.
One with nature.
But burst will deal some damage.
Wait, say that again? Sorry, I was distracted by
the burst will deal some damage, some nice damage.
Yeah. You mean like Emily's burst?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's not affected by.
Yeah, it's gonna do pretty good damage. That is true.
We're getting the 27th edition to Sino teams. Like,
And he's still gonna feel like shit to play. Aware. It's okay. Yeah, I feel like
the character that got the most support in terms of releases after he came out. Like
you think that's Sino?
Well, Nahida goes kind of without saying. Baiju.
Yeah, Baiju for sure. I feel like also because she's been out for so long and there's been so many patches, Xiangling. To some extent.
Yeah. Well, but for a sub DPS, is definitely more common. I'm more talking in the lens of a main DPS.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Xiao is like he didn't get that many, but the ones he got were big.
It's also that the more flaws a main DPS has, the easier it becomes for him to integrate new characters on his teams, because
yeah, because you're
it's not
giving,
a target, it really is.
Even if it's not optimal, if it's fixing one of the flaws, there's an argument for it. Yeah. So what you're saying is that Sino's a dog shit unit and he's worthless, right?
No, I actually like when a character has flaws.
You can quote him on this, chat.
No. I actually like when a character has flaws that don't get fixed by constellations, and so they benefit more from out of the box usages and such.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good design.
I just like this trend of characters being flawless if you pull for a few constellations, so signature, because kind of makes it more boring to, think of compositions that can accommodate their usage better. Like New Villette is a character that the Constellation Zero is kind of balanced by the flaws it has. Like it's still not balanced, but it's a bit balanced by the lack of interruption resistance that can be annoying, so you have to bring Zhongli and such. But the Constellation one, it just becomes completely flawless in terms of the kit.
Oh, actually, speaking of Nebulet, have you done the new Abyss?
No, I haven't had the time, but I've heard.
Oh, it's odd. The Nebulet effect is being felt. Like, Abyss is like... it's really reaching the point where, like, if you don't have Nebulet, it's gonna be a lot harder than if you do. Like, significantly so. It used to be that, like, yeah, he made things easier, but, like, other teams could still do it without that much of a problem. But, like, this Abyss specifically, I feel like is so rough for other characters.
Yeah, I made this video, it was 6 months ago, where I said that basically New Villette, because of its design and how its gameplay, is gonna be very hard to power creep, even if they increase the numbers. And, like, unless they change the design of the enemies in some way that specifically targets New Villette's fangs.
So Hydro slimes everywhere? Yeah.
I don't see a situation where it will ever feel less than very, very good.
Yeah. I think it's
because
they're starting to balance, like, Abyss around him, which makes other characters feel a lot worse.
In general, in Genshin, characters that have consistent AoE always felt pretty good, like Child, Shaolin International. But the thing with, for example, International is that it's a team with a significant skill ceiling and also investment ceiling.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great, but there is also a lot that can go wrong. New Villette is basically the Child International on steroids, but without the all the clunky stuff and all the scuff, and just so easy to play and also so strong.
Yeah, like he's on like the same level as like the other really strong characters in terms of output, but he doesn't have to put any work on it, unlike those other characters.
Yeah, if you're talking like the ceiling of damage on other characters, I think now it would be probably Arlecchino. some characters can get to her level, but for example, Lina, in my opinion, but it requires a bit specific playstyles and investment. And the thing with New Milad is that it can match Arlecchino in terms of output, but it's also pretty significantly easier to play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. It's the time of Fontaine, I guess.
Yeah, people underestimate Genshin when it comes to power creep, in my opinion. Because
What do you mean?
there is this opinion that Genshin has no power creep, but even before New Milad, even before Fontaine, I think there was power creep in some areas, like Sumeru power crept the free-to-play area of the game significantly, in my opinion.
I think, okay,
And,
I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't really call it power creep. Because, like, power creep is, like, it's a term that, like, is inherently relatively... It has a negative connotation that implies that you're invalidating a lot of the old stuff. And while Sumeru did, like, raise a lot of the damage for everything, it took a lot of characters with it while raising that, right? Like, it took a lot of those characters that were just decent or whatever and made them better. So I wouldn't really call it power creep as much as just an overall increase to like, team strength.
Yeah, I don't mean it in a negative way, so characters becoming useless, but it just like made some playstyles or team compositions kind of obsolete in the eyes of the community. Like in the first or second year, National was the team. Like the team that everybody will name when it came to, this is the best freely available team in Genshin. And then it became Hyperbloom. Like, and still to this day, Hyperbloom is the go-to free-to-play team, I guess. And the thing with National, now that I am on this point, is that it's kind of free-to-play because of the units you have to play, but it also has a significant investment ceiling.
What do you mean by investment ceiling?
Like, for example, the variants with Child, like you can get Kazu's Constellation, so that increases the...
Yeah, it does. Like, I get your point. I still think that, like, I wouldn't really call this stuff pre-Neuvillette power creep, per se. But, like, I do think that with Neuvillette's release, power creep is definitely starting to be a real thing, and honestly a real problem as well.
Even excluding the base power of the characters, like they're really starting to ramp up in terms of how much a character can improve with the signature and constellations, and kind of copying
that's true.
the path they've taken with Stariel, because Stariel introduced it a bit earlier than Genshin, like these dramatic increases when it comes to constellations and such. And they've noticed, we can make a lot of fucking money by just fixing the flaws of Constellation 1 and Constellation 2, because they're so, on quotes, easily obtainable, because you just have to get the Constellation 1, so it's not a big expense. And it's kind of predatory. Like, with Chiori, it was particularly predatory to me.
Yeah. Like, the thing with Chiori is, like, I kind of wish her C1 just didn't exist. Or, like, it did something that didn't, like...
Yeah.
Or it just did, like, +1 doll. Instead of +1 doll, but only if you're not playing another Geo character.
Because, the flaw of her being, like, a construct unit is okay by itself.
Yeah. Like, I like Chiori's design at C0. I like Chiori's design a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense for a Geo character, and I feel like that's the sort of direction. Like, even way before we had leaks of her, I was like, I think they should make Geo characters, like, and they should design them around the idea of constructs. Having some characters that give you constructs, and having some characters that give you payoffs for having constructs. And, like, I like that they did that with Chiori. But then making it so that as C1 the construct doesn't matter anymore is fucking cringe. I hate that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and they made it clear too, because like in terms of how much of an improvement constellations are, because before there were damage bonuses, defense reduction, things that look great, but you can only estimate the value of if you look at the numbers, calculate and stuff. But while something like, oh, you get one more puppet, is definitely clear in terms of how much of an increase it is from the casual player. So I think that makes it even more predatory in a way.
Yeah. I mean, even the fact that, like, I think a lot of people think that her C1 doubles her damage in Navia teams. Because a lot of people see, like, oh, double the puppets, that's double the damage.
No, yeah.
Which is, like, even more, like, trying to take advantage of that. Like, I wanna improve my Navia team, what should I do?
Yeah. That's a fair point. But yeah, on the Navia thing especially, like, it's so scummy that they clearly made this constellation one to bait Navia players.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
And, like, it's sad because you look at, like, C0 Chiori in Navia teams, like, she's fine. Like, she's not amazing, but, like, she's fine. And they didn't need to do it like that.
I think she's fine because the alternatives are what they are.
Yeah, like,
because
I don't think they... I would have rather they just don't even, like, make Chiori a unit for Navia at all. Like...
The construct side of Geo, like, it definitely needed more help than Navia did, so...
Yeah, like, it needs more help, and also it's, like... It's also something I talk about pretty often, but Navia inherently synergizes with other elements a lot better than other Geo characters.
Yes.
Which means that you can give her support without it being a Geo character a lot more easily. Whereas the construct characters, the like base design of Geo, can only be improved, or almost only be improved, by other Geo characters. And so, if they're going to be releasing one Geo character every 2 years, it should be a fucking construct character, so that one day we actually have Geo teams that are playable, you know?
Yeah, now that team just needs a new main DPS, probably.
Yeah.
I don't like how Ito is designed in a way, because I think they balance units with their defensive stuff and offensive stuff. Like, Florent can heal herself, so her damage is a bit reduced compared to others. And even interruption resistance falls into this perspective. And it does full interruption resistance, but I don't think it really needs it that much on a team that can integrate Zhongli that well.
Yeah. And his damage is taking a big hit for it, right? Like, his power budget is a lot into the defensive stuff, but he doesn't need it.
Yep.
I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Don't say anything mean to chat.
Now this is my stream. Hi, chat. I'm not reading the chat, but it's my stream now for the next 20 seconds. Or wait, it won't be that fast. Maybe 1 minute.
Staring into my eyes is ill-advised. I can't promise you'll like what you see.
Okay, I'm reading the chat now. Do I watch Euro 2024? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of national teams. I'm a soccer fan. Football fan, sorry. Not soccer. Soccer is the forbidden word. But yeah, I follow it. I think...
Alright, I'm back.
I think England has the best chance to win. Yeah, I was discussing football with the chat.
I see. They asked me about soccer earlier as well.
Football.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really not as big here in Canada. Like, I don't think that many people care over here.
Yeah, you have hockey there, right?
Hmm?
You have hockey there, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more about hockey than Honestly, anything else? Stop being. I'm not American. I'm
Yeah.
Canadian. Maj.
Yeah. Although I guess basketball is getting bigger there. I'm a huge NBA fan, so I follow it. And with Toronto Raptors being pretty great in recent history, probably got a bit bigger, no?
I don't know. I feel like outside of Toronto, nobody gives a shit.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just in a bubble, but I feel like Canadians just don't give a shit about any sport other than hockey.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I was actually wondering what teams do you think people are gonna like really gravitate towards for Emilie?
I thought it was a sport questions at first. Okay. I think
Yeah,
the most popular
I think the
teams-
best Emilie team is gonna be the Toronto Raptors. True.
Okay. I think the monopyro teams are the ones that Emily will be most popular in because they're the easiest to play and also the most obvious ones to think about because you just replace Shenling, and for many people replacing Shenling is also a plus because
They don't like her, yeah.
well,
Okay.
I think many of the flaws actually don't apply to monopyro teams because she becomes easier to manage in terms of energy.
Adventure time.
And also, thanks to Kazuha, they're pretty AoE teams, and she does a lot of damage. And like, I really like Shenling on monopyro teams.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, for a lot of people, I think the being able to replace her would be a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, like, I really want her to be like actually decent as a carry, and I was looking into some of the numbers, and like I feel like she just needs a tiny little bit more, but I don't know if she'd be balanced if she got another buff.
Harry, so what team are you thinking about?
I was looking at like Bennett Farina flex, with
Okay.
a flex either being a defensive option or Shangling.
Yeah. So this core basically works everywhere.
But like specifically for her, it's nice because her burning helps. It helps you get more vapes on Farina, so Farina's personal damage goes up, which is nice.
Yeah. I'm just not able to fully estimate how much it actually helps because with the Bennett Shelling core, Shelling is I think is a bit underestimated in this sense because she's a pretty fantastic pyro player.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's true.
People say, "Oh, we need a pyro Shincho," but I think people just underestimate how good Shelling is in that sense.
Yeah, I think the main reason for it is that Shailing's energy generation being locked to a shorter cooldown skill kind of means that you have to actually adapt your rotation to do 2 skills for her to feel good to use in teams where you're looking for all-field pyro. And that's not only harder to do, but also some characters just don't really have a period during your uptime where you can swap to her and drop a second Globa.
Yeah. It works pretty nicely on Yugi-led teams because you have these windows where you can swap out, of course, and put the Globa again. I like those vape teams. And in general, I think Shelling is good enough as a pyro player that Emily applying burning on top of that, it will probably make a difference, but not a very significant one.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the Shining is the flex, right? Like it's you'd play Shining if you're looking for more damage, but it wouldn't be necessary with Emilie plus like if you have C6 Bennett as your pyro app. You should be mostly fine. The one thing I'm not sure about is I'm not sure exactly how her like check for the burning works. Like, does it every 2 seconds check if the enemy is burning, and if it is, it gives a stack, and if it isn't, it doesn't? Or does it like whenever the enemy is burning, gives a stack and then goes on a 2-second cooldown?
Well, of course, I hope it's a second because if it isn't,
because otherwise it's gonna be really awkward.
Yeah, it will make all of these reaction teams a bit more suspect. Yeah. But I think the way the game is designed, I think the second is more likely to be true.
I
in a
agree.
way.
I think it's a lot more likely, but also, you know, it should be a lot more likely that Beto works with Raiden. But like, hey, listen, if they want to fuck us over, they will.
That's probably one of the biggest, the biggest scams we ever got in Genshin.
Yeah, it's. I hate when people defend it like, oh no, you don't get it. It's normal. It's burst damage. You don't I do understand, motherfucker. That's the problem.
Oh, it's Genshin. People will defend anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty tragic at first because Beidou was probably the one character people saw as the best partner for Raiden. Because the national teams at first weren't very obvious, like especially in pre-release and back then where the testing was in beta, private clients beta was very minimal, like if not absent. The one character people saw as the obvious partner was Beidou. Then Raiden came out and Beidou wasn't functioning, and so people were okay. This character is Zhongli level, like pretty buff.
It's like one of the biggest reasons that contributed to her initial reaction being so poor was the fact that if you like just read the kits, Beidou is going to be her best synergy by far, and then they just fucking decide not like to make it not work.
Yeah, and it was also a period where Beidou was very well seen as a character, and
like the worst part is like a lot of people are confused about this, but like there was a beta version where it worked and Emblem worked and like everything worked and the sky was blue and filled with birds and life was good, and they just actively decided to take it away.
Yeah, I remember seeing some footage where it worked, I think, or yeah, and there wasn't much beta footage in general back then, so.
I mean, even now, I feel like it would still be a pretty good option.
Yeah.
Just the defensive utility that Beidou provides is just so nice.
Well, Raiden is probably one of the characters that needs it the least, maybe.
That's fair. But I feel like, especially nowadays, shit one-shots you everywhere.
Yeah, it would have been pretty great. I was excited for that composition specifically. Like that was the one composition I saw as, oh, this one is pretty great for Raiden. So
Clueless. No, they needed to sell Sarah. They needed to sell Yai. Can't make it work with Beidou.
Well, Raiden Yai also ended up being pretty. You know, initially it was seen as a composition, but now Yai has kind of created her own identity, likely.
Yeah, because Yai was like not really that good, and Dendro gave her teams where she actually was good, so people could stop coping with the Raiden stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she was fine in Taser, but she was worse than the alternatives. Speaking of which, Taser is actually so good this Abyss. I love it.
I haven't checked it out, so I will see.
But yeah, like because the hardest chamber by far is chamber 1, and there's double Lecter. There's on a 3-wave chamber that also has double Pyro Abyss Mage. And
do you like these elemental checks?
No, I mean, yes, I feel like the elemental checks could be fine. Like, they're fine in some situations, but like this one, your elemental check, like, it's your hydro or your elemental requirements are like a little bit too much for like just Xingqiu to be enough, which makes things feel really awful if you don't have the greatest alternatives, right? Like, if you don't have a built Taser team, which like most people don't, and you don't have like specifically the like hydro characters that are really good in this Abyss, you're not gonna have a team that feels good.
Yeah, that's the thing with Genshin. Like the teams feel good as long as you can make a fully synergetic, like a 4 or at least 3 people team, like that can feel good in terms of rotation. But as soon as you vary from that to match whatever requirement the base could have in terms of elemental checks or so, the starts to feel much worse.
Yeah.
Like in terms of just play style.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why the elemental checks many people hate it, because they're so accustomed to play characters on their optimal setups that whenever they stray away from that, it just feels very bad.
Yeah. And like the reason why this abyss is so bad specifically is because it's an elemental check on a 3-wave chamber that follows a 4-wave chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fucking rough.
Yeah.
Because there's so many
try
characters
it.
that like, okay, the enemy's relatively squishy, but they're alone in the wave, so you kind of have to use a full rotation on them anyways. Which means that there's a lot of teams where you're basically never going to be clearing first chamber much faster than like a minute 20, a minute 30.
Yeah, it's the death of Sino. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
People were also worried about Chlorant for like the initial versions of Chlorant that
Yeah,
had done
TF
9.
helps a lot for that. God.
And also I feel like I haven't tried it in this base. I also feel like her burst is often strong enough that it can take care of at least the weaker waves.
Yeah, I mean, the weakest wave right now is a Rune Guard, and her burst kind of isn't enough for that.
Fischl kind of helps, like, I think.
Yeah,
no?
yeah, you can like on-field Fischl for a little bit, use your Kazuha burst, use your Chlorine burst, and like it's kind of enough. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But TF, my goat.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of controversy regarding, which is the best set for Chlorant, TF or that, or Whimsy set.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think TF can feel better, but it also depends, because if you have enough damage or the situation in terms of enemies is the right one, that with Whimsy you can one rotate the room.
Mm-hmm.
Then it definitely gets a significant advantage over TF. That is more meant for longer fights.
I think the main reason why I like TF more than Whimsy is that if you are in a situation where Whimsy would like be enough to let you one rotate, with TF you just E again and take 2 more seconds, and it's really not that much worse because you can adapt your rotation to have like a higher
That's
DPR.
what I like as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like as well. She becomes extremely flexible with TF.
Exactly, and like you alleviate the downside of TF with its upsides in a way that Whimsy is just like it's a lot more strict, and that lack of flexibility makes it so that it has more situations where it just feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like either way, both sets are fine. The main reason why I like TF so much more is you can strongbox it, and it's been out for so much longer. A lot of people already have some TF pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
My chat is abusing the ping, the ping on my channel point redeems. Let me do one.
Do you feel like the way her damage is and the way she's overall designed, like it would have made sense for the developers to just add the interruption resistance on top of her kit? Like,
I think she shouldn't have base interruption resistance, but I think she should be uninterruptible during her like dash from the E. Like you give her like hyper armor during the E dash, so that you can like if you see that there's an attack that's incoming, you can, instead of doing 3 normal attacks E, you do like 4 or 5 normal attacks to time your E to like have that hyper armor for the incoming attack, because like, it would effectively work like a parry, which would really fit well with her design of a duelist, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think she should have some. Like, yeah, as I said, and also you said, like they balance character based on the defensive stuff they have, and with Chlorine they picked the healing part for her. I think like Rio has it, Risley, as some. So, and I think Chlorine damage is on that ballpark, like of Risley on his best teams. So I think maybe it would have fit.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of slightly overestimated the healing in the pre-release because it just feels bad without interruption resistance, and a lot of the interruption resistant options also give you either healing or pseudo healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the healing kind of becomes moot if you're in a situation where like you're getting interrupted too much and you have to bring a shielder, so it doesn't really matter if she heals or not.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like the shield acts as pseudo healing, and you're just like, well, why do I have a heal now? Yeah.
It's nice with Furina because she heals more.
This abyss, her lack of IR is a lot less noticeable. That's fair, I guess. That is fair.
Yeah, it was much more noticeable in the past one where like you have the Kanking chamber one, and then the worst designed boss in the game in Coppelius in Chamber 2.
Why do you think it's the worst one?
Because I think the patterns you have to take account of, and the attack frequency yes, and the it's just made in a way that you can't really adapt to it with skill that well. Like it just pushes you towards using a shielder.
Yeah, I feel like that's not really. It's not really as bad with Coplius than as it is with Coplia. Like, I think.
Yeah. I meant the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Coplius is actually a lot more manageable. I think, okay, I will say the fact that, like, so many of the good characters have abilities that like, make it really difficult to see what's going on screen, like Cosmo Burst, for example, makes it feel so much worse. Because if you can see Publius like going around the abyss, like you can see the attacks coming, and they're actually really easy to dodge.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just really cringe because you can't see because Kazuha's burst is in the way, and you have to basically guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, I think there is a difference between a boss having patterns that can be you have to learn because if you want to survive, but these patterns are fair, and the Coppelia that is just kind of unfair in my opinion if you want to play the skilled way. Like
Yeah, I mean, I disagree for Coplia specifically. I think Coplia I agree, but Coplius I think they're again, as long as you don't have visual clutter on your screen, they're telegraphed enough that it's not that bad.
what do you think about the consecrated beasts? In
I
terms of
really like them when there's one of them. I think it can be kind of cringe if there's two.
yeah, two of them kind of feel like the Godskin duo in Under Ring. I don't know if you played it.
I haven't, but I still like I'm still aware of the Goskin duo. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I don't hate Consecrated Beast nearly as much as other people do. I feel like my biggest gripe with them is their hitboxes being so cringe and then pushing you around more so than killing you.
It's just that some of the attacks can be so hard to notice and just
Yeah.
like so clearly meant to push you towards bringing a shielder that if you don't, you just feel bad, kind of.
Yeah, again, right, it boils down to the fact that so many of the good characters have abilities that make it so hard to see what's going on your screen.
Well, now at least with Numinet, they won't ever be a problem again.
True! Yeah. Him being able to kite on top of his, like, natural tankiness is just not fair.
Yep.
But yeah, like, in this Abyss, I actually really like the Consecrated Beast chamber. I think it's actually pretty good. Well, it has one too many waves, like, pretty much the whole rest of this Abyss, but outside of the one too many waves, it's... Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the theater that is about to drop, I think in too weak?
I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I obviously like that there's new, different content, and I know that I'll probably enjoy it, at least at the start. But I feel like it's not really designed for anyone. Like, it's pretty much just a FOMO machine, because it's, like, from what I've seen, it's way too easy to be actually challenging for anyone that has enough built characters. So it's going to be pretty trivial to do. But it's also a hard requirement to have a lot of leveled up characters of an arbitrary like restriction that they could change to another set of elements. They could change to something that isn't elements. They could decide, hey, you need to have only characters from Fontaine. And what's that? You didn't really pull for characters in Fontaine because you were saving for not-lum characters? Sucks to be you. You can't do this mode. And, like, I don't like that at all.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. What I think is that people that really like their base, like playing their base over and over again to get the better results and just try the best teams, won't really like it either. So it's a bit of a funny thing where the more hardcore players, I don't think they will really like the teeter a lot because of the randomized nature of it, which makes it pretty hard for you to play these optimal teams you're so accustomed to. And
I will say, like, I like that it forces you to play suboptimal teams. Like, I think that's cool. I think team building is the most fun aspect in this game, and team building with a given set of restrictions is fun. I like it a lot. It's just those restrictions are not just team building restrictions, they're also pulling restrictions, which fucking sucks.
Yeah, I agree. I like the diversity side of it. I'm just saying that, funnily enough, I don't think the more hardcore like side of the players in Genshin will love it.
Yeah, I mean,
Because,
that's fair.
Because people that really play their base a lot just want to see their characters pop off and like deal huge damage numbers.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people farm artifacts over and over again to get like a 5% increase or pull constellations. They just want to see their favorite characters deal the highest damage possible.
You know, I haven't entered an artifact domain in like a month and a half.
Yeah, I'm also not the kind of guy that just want to over optimize some like the because it's just too cancer in Genshin.
It's rough. Although I will, it's not much better in WUA. Let's be honest. It's so bad.
As of now, it feels great to even get the smallest kind of increase in WUA because the difference between not having a set and having like good main stats is like feels very good. But as we approach the end game more and more in terms of builds, it'll be significantly cancer.
Yeah, like I'm already at the point where like a given echo has like maybe a 2 or 3% chance to roll substats that are good enough for it to be an upgrade, and it feels like shit.
Yeah, I think also the whole ecosystem, like it feels nice at first because you know you get them from the overworld and you have to explore and stuff. So it like with the whole honeymoon phase of the game, like it feels acceptable. But the more you play and of course the less you feel like spending hours and hours on the game. And so that aspect that where you have to just go over the world to find echoes and such kind of becomes more boring, I think.
Yeah.
How do you like the combat in Wuthering Waves?
The way I like to describe it is, I think that the like combat itself, like playing it, is more fun than Genshin, but the team building is incredibly boring and stale, and I don't think it's ever really gonna get better.
I actually don't think the combat is strictly better than Genshin. Like combat.
Yeah, I mean, I
itself.
wouldn't call it strictly better, but like overall, like I have a lot of fun trying to pull off like swap cancels that are as tight as possible, and it feels pretty rewarding.
Yeah, it depends on what you like, because
Mhm.
Genshin is more like action RPG, on the action RPG side with the themes and the synergies. Meanwhile, Wuthering Waves, especially now, it's kind of iffy with the synergies between characters.
Sure.
Like the whole Outer Effects thing they nerfed with
Yeah,
them not
that's
staying
really
quick swaps,
unfortunate.
just kind of makes these synergies kind of weird,
Time to get
and so it becomes much more of an action type game than an action RPG, in my opinion, where that your skill and your ability to execute the right combos matters much more than the synergies themselves. And so it depends on what you like, I think, in a game. But
Yeah, exactly.
From a technical sense, I just think that the current state of the targeting and the
Oh, yeah,
cameras
God. Please.
just make it like I think it just feels better in Genshin's combat than in Wuthering Waves combat is right now. Playing it.
Wait, I just realized I was trying to farm fungi and I'm farming specters instead because whatever. Oops.
Like it has potential to be better, but the all the stuff that there is right now kind of makes it worse in terms of feel. And
Yeah,
of course,
that's
it doesn't help that mobile players can't even play the game. So like,
true. Yeah,
imagine
that's
them.
fair. I have two accounts. I have one that's no pull, max refresh every day, and one that's just a normal free to play account. And honestly, I think that the combat is a lot more fun on the no pull because I can't just play. Ooh, Gion. Oh, he's a heavy attack character. Okay, let's give him the heavy attack buff character. And then, oh, it's Verena on the last slot because she's the only unit you want on the last slot. Woohoo! Like, I have to actually figure shit out with the useless characters I have. And I kind of like that a lot more. And, like, like, even just, like, playing itself, just, like, in general, the teams are a lot more swampy. And, I don't know, I feel like it's so much more fun on that account.
Yeah, it's also more interesting to watch. But I don't think Genshin was any different at the start. Like, I remember having a lot of fun watching MBOCT. Just try to figure out how to beat the abyss.
Yeah.
With the poor characters he had, and like it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all.
Gather. Bow your head.
But yeah, I think the point is I kind of disagree when people say, "Oh, the combat in Wuthering Waves is so much better than in Genshin." It's just kind of different.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Like it's the difference between playing Devil May Cry and the Kingdom Hearts, kind of. Like
I have not played Kingdom Hearts, so I can't, like, really relate to that. But the way I usually describe it is that the combat in Wuthering Waves has more complexity and the combat in Genshin has more depth. And it's really more about which one of those things you care about the most.
yeah, the combat itself in Genshin is probably one of the best parts of Genshin. Like
Solidify.
all the depth there is in it, all the mechanics, the synergy, like it's very well done. I think when people say, "Oh, the combat in Genshin is bad," they refer more to the applications of this combat in the actual game.
Yeah. Like, not the combat design, but just, like, the combat content that we have.
Yeah, because the combat is very good in my opinion.
I very much agree. But I mean, I'm a theater crafter, of course I do.
Yeah, and that's the reason why theory crafting, at least at the start, was so active in Genshin.
I think it still is. Like, it's a lot different than it used to be because stuff is so much more streamlined. But theater crafting is still pretty active.
It's active, but I feel like initially there was people were more passionate about it, kind of like Kitchen Mains. Kitchen Mains was much more active at the start, and to to this day, I still use the theory drafting library from catching mains a lot.
Yeah.
And that has a lot of very, very obscure like tags and just info about functioning mechanics of the game that you wouldn't be able to discover if you weren't very, very passionate about how the game worked.
Yeah.
One with nature.
And that's only possible if the combat is well designed, which is the case with Genshin, I think.
I agree that the combat is well designed, but I don't agree that that only happens in games where the combat is well designed. I feel like sometimes people, even if the combat is ass, will be like, well, this is my favorite game because of something else, and I care about combat, so I'll still like figure all this shit out.
Yeah, I agree, but at the end of the day, it also has to do with the fact that Genshin is massively popular in general. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people playing it, and so some of them are going to be interested in the combat itself, like a big portion of it.
Yeah. You know, I really miss like the early days of the combat when we didn't have like data mined leaks and everything like that, and we actually had to figure shit out through testing. Like now, the only purpose of testing is like making sure that stuff does work like we expect it to, but most of the time it does, and it's like I feel like a lot of the fun for me has been lost.
I think I agree in a way, but I also disagree because if it was still that way, half the content in my channel wouldn't be possible.
True.
So yeah, I kind of have a conflict of interest here.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if, you know, this stuff wasn't like data mined, you would still make similar content. It just would be on the like the most recent characters instead of on the leaks, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, the scene in Genshin is so saturated when it comes to
That's
content
true.
stuff that it's very hard to like become noticeable. If
Yeah,
you
it's hard
make
to stand
content
out, for
that
sure.
Yeah. And now I'm luckily in a position where my non-leak content also performs nicely, so I have a more range of content I can release. But initially, without leaks, it would have been much harder for sure.
Yeah, I was lucky to basically just be right place, right time, and so for me it was a lot easier to stand out. But like, yeah,
It's also about the quality that you can offer
yeah, but like,
with the videos.
I'm not the only one who has quality videos, right? Like the main reason why my channel did so well in the beginning, especially because like if you look at the early videos on my channel, like back when I didn't have an editor, they're awful. Like they are not good. Like the information is good, but the videos themselves are not pleasant to watch. And if you look at that, and it's like, yeah, like the reason why my channel ended up doing well is mainly just because I basically went to high school with the biggest guide maker on the platform, and I helped him with his guides early on, you know?
Zajef.
Yeah. And like,
I didn't know you went to school together.
yeah, that's how we
That
met.
makes sense.
We've been
Nice.
friends for
That's
like
great.
10 years.
That's great.
But like, if
it's-
it wasn't for that, my content wouldn't really have stood out too much from other like meta focused content, and I don't think I'd be where I am, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's about luck, but luck is also taking advantage of the opportunities that.
Yeah. Like obviously, I'm not saying like, ooh, I don't deserve to be here. Like someone else should have my place, but like, it's. I feel like it's good to like realize that a part of your success is due to luck.
Yeah, it is due to luck, but you still filled a niche that wasn't that much covered. I think like. And that's what it is all about at the end of the day. Like, the quality is relative to the kind of competition you're facing, I think. Because maybe there wasn't as much quality in the editing, but there was quality in the info you provided, and so it stood out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I,
early
when-
on, a lot of the like guide content was just very often wrong.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
when I started making videos, of course, the competition was probably a bit harsher, I think, than when you
Mm-hmm.
started, because of course there was you, and also the guides became better in general. So in order to make content that in my eyes, was competitive, I had to improve a lot.
Yeah, but you also like you pump out a lot of videos and like they're consistently good. Like I feel like a big reason why your channel grew as much as it did is because of that consistency.
I agree. Like I make like for the type of content I cover, I make a substantial amount of videos, probably.
I don't know how you do it, man. That's I would not have that much to say about every character, man.
Okay, it was much worse. Like in the beginning when I was just covering leaks,
Mm-hmm.
and I made 11 videos on Kirara.
Nice. That's great.
11 videos on Kirara. And I remember it being the worst period for me in YouTube ever, because I was just so miserable making videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mood was on the floor, because I just didn't have the motivation to, especially in that period, because like they made Baiju, they made Yayo, they made I'll Hate Them. So the kind of stuff you were saying about the Dendro characters was kind of the same always. Okay, this guy can, as a good Dendro application, can go
Oh,
on Nidu.
Hyper Bloom. Oh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love Hyper Bloom.
But yeah, and as time went on, I've become able to add more to my videos, like in terms of infographics, in terms of just also cute animations, like the things I've done recently with explaining the character's kit through in a more visualized way. And it also became funnier, more fun for me to just make the videos.
Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of infographics, on your Amy video, you had a graph that said you were assuming 60 burning procs from Emilie.
Okay.
60? How? When?
Yeah. Well, I went just off the assumption that the pyro is constantly applied on the opponent, and like she's going to be the trigger of burning a lot.
But she's not gonna be the
Then you-
trigger of burning. Like most of the time, your burning ownership is gonna be on your on-fielder. Like burning ownership is to whoever applied either pyro or dendro last. And because her app is really slow, she's gonna have very little ownership.
Yeah, I probably made a mistake there. Yeah, because
Okay,
yeah.
business. Alright, it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, because I was looking at it and I was like, the difference between EM sense and attack sense should be a lot higher. Something's wrong here.
Well, the difference between ER sense and attack sense, so a sense that provides nothing offensively technically, and is 10%. So it can be a lot slower. I think even if the EM does.
I think I had it at more
Yeah,
than
just
that.
no. I mean, just switching from ER to attack without changing anything in the character's action.
Yeah,
I think it's
I have it
10%.
at 20.
Oh, wait, let me recheck.
Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe. I mean, it might be an assumption difference, but like you're not that saturated on attack because she doesn't snapshot.
Okay, no, it's 14% for me.
14.
Yeah.
That could be just assumption difference.
Yeah, on the double pirate, on the Arlecchino mono pirate team.
But yeah, like, because EM Sense is like actually gonna be basically no damage. Like,
Yeah,
it
maybe-
assuming your ER requirement doesn't matter, it should be like maybe 1% above ER Sense.
Truthfully, I wasn't sure about how the triggers work on burning, so I kind of looked at the simulator stuff to see like the burning teams with the Nahida.
Yeah, but Nahida's
And,
app is a lot better,
yeah.
and it's fully AoE, so it's gonna be a bit different.
Oh, the simulator assumed the single target, I think.
Mm. But like
And
even then,
so
right?
that's
When you're in AoE, she's not applying that burning to all the enemies, right? Only to one for most of the rotation.
Yeah.
So that damage doesn't translate to AoE.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah, for sure. But I just saw there that Nahida had like 85% to 90% ownership.
What team is that?
Wait, let me check.
That sounds like what you'd get on like a Ganyu Melt team. That doesn't have off-field pyro.
I don't remember the exact team, but it had Ling. It had
Really?
like or wait, Bennett, Kazuo.
You know what? You're making me doubt myself. I'm gonna go double check that if you apply pyro to a burning enemy, it does overtake ownership, because I'm starting to doubt.
Ready for
Let me check the spread with on a Line monopirate team with Nahida. Let me check what they have here. Okay,
Yeah, it does. Okay. So I did a Yunfei normal attack on a burning enemy, and it reduced the burning damage because my Yunfei doesn't have EM. This one's gonna be high.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm checking Line, Nahida, Kazuo, and Bennett, and Line has some ownership, so yeah. But mostly it's Nahida on this team. Line, Nahida, Kazuo, and Bennett.
Really? I feel like it shouldn't be. Oh, I guess with Nahida specifically, I guess it makes sense. Because Nahida procs when you trigger a reaction. So she'll always be, like, right after you've triggered another reaction. So she's more likely to line up perfectly where, like, she's the one getting the ownership. So I guess it makes sense for Nahida specifically. But Emilie doesn't have that, right? Like, if she hits right before Kazuha applies Pyro, Kazuha's gonna yoink that ownership.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess so. But it's still Nahida has a cooldown of 2 seconds and a half.
Wait, say that again?
They still have a similar cooldown with their attacks, like Nahida on a monopyro teams and Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But I mean, also
the
your
application-
on-fielder is going to be applying Pyro as well, right?
Let me check on our Arlecchino team, which has more. Oh, okay, Arlecchino is not on simulator yet, so wait, shall we?
Aware. But yeah, because, like, burning damage is always who the latest trigger was, either Pyro or Dendro. Even if they didn't trigger burning, like, even if they just refresh one of the auras. And Nahida, like, she gets a lot because she's never going to proc, like, right before someone. She's always right after because that's the condition for her damage, right?
Yeah, okay, with Chilling, it's basically absent, yeah, okay. I made a mistake there.
SMH my head. Not perfect video. Not my YouTuber. Maj.
Okay.
It happens.
Yeah. In my infographics specifically, I make mistakes more often than I like to, because I like them to beat zero, so and zero mistakes. But thing is, I make them while I'm making the video and not before. and that's a mistake. So I more rushed in terms of oh, I have to make it as fast as possible, and so it makes me do more mistakes, kind of in the process.
I mean, you don't have to justify it. Like it happens. It's okay. Use your business.
No, I'm not even justifying it, just explaining because I like to explain how my process of making the videos, and yeah, and I try to improve at that.
But yeah, burning aura is a pain in the ass. Like I really don't blame you.
Yeah, and remember you saying about my infographics that they should have a chart, like a cake chart, instead of a bar chart on
Yeah.
for the damage
That,
spread.
that, that
But
was
the
an
thing is,
offhand
on
comment. Like it wasn't meant to be
No,
that
no, no.
serious. But yeah.
no, I didn't take it seriously. Just wanted to comment on it, and I don't do the cake chart because on the website I'm using for the infographics, it just looks very bad in terms of
Yeah, that's
aesthetic.
fair.
So I just use the bar chart.
All right. Oh. Anyways, I don't think I have anything else I wanted to talk about. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I also have to go now. So
Oh, perfect timing. All right. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
and they can find me on YouTube, TGS, formerly called the Genshin Scientist on YouTube. Now TGS for branding and motivations, I guess.
Okay, business mods. Would you kindly provide a link in chat to the channel? Everyone go subscribe. And yeah, thank you for dropping by and thank you for the talk. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great.
Goodbye. See you around.
Goodbye.
All right. I hope you guys appreciated that. Got some insight. Got some poggers. Alright. Is it time for the client pre-release? Post-release. That's what I said. I said that right the first time. Don't clip it. I don't... I think before I get started on it, I should do some testing on her in this abyss. Agreed? Agreed. I think that's a good idea. What the fuck team do we even play? I feel like this abyss isn't that scary. I say that I'm probably gonna die because I said that. I'm jinxing myself, but it's fine. I feel like first side of this abyss isn't really scary. You can kind of get away pretty easily without a shielder. Yeah, alright. And then... I think second side I'll just play Navidad because I don't want to fucking bother with this shit. Alright. Chat, I'm gonna be honest. I find myself using Kazuha a lot more than I would want to Because I have to scroll down to see Sucrose now. Because I have too many 5-star characters. Fucking... This sucks, man.
Midnight Venta.
I think I fucked that up. I think I didn't get a swirl. Oh no! It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'll just do this and then swap back to her. I kind of want to be able to do this without using... Ah, I shouldn't. That was a mistake.
Enough.
What? Okay, dude. I pressed Q. I pressed Q. Whatever.
Hunt them down. Ready.
I summon thee.
Okay, we don't talk about it. This was awful, but it's okay.
As you will.
Loaded.
Where do you think you're going?
Oh my god, auto targeting, please.
Evil wings. Shoot on sight.
No rest for the wicked.
Ready.
That was fine. It was kind of slow. It's good enough. Hopefully. I think.
Gather. The tides beckon. Settle down.
Wind strike.
How brightly burn
As one with wind and cloud.
Let my name echo in song.
order guide you. Silence. What a fall bright. Let the mighty
target.
be humbled. Let the flames of redemption burn. No.
Shower me with praise. Let the world come
Oh no. He hit my shield. He is disappearing.
Bow your head.
Mod check, where did he go? Okay.
Animal hypostick committed to memory. Midnight Vent.
Time to testify. Loaded.
Animal test. Hey. Oz, reveal thyself.
Ready. Hunt them down. Into the shadows.
What? No fucking way. Whatever. Thank you for the +1. Okay, use business.
Let my name echo in
I don't think he's gonna die.
Solidify.
No way. I kinda gotta be careful, only don't wanna stagger their death.
Wind strike.
strike a pose. Time to shine.
Gather.
Right.
Silence. The tides beckon.
guess.
Wind strike. Time to go. Clouds high. The birds
I don't know why God loves on this weapon, but that's okay. Doesn't matter.
Let the mighty be humble. Settle down.
Okay.
As you
Animal module 75.
What am I doing? What am I doing?
By royal decree. Stand clear.
Evil lurks. Shoot on sight into the shadows.
Midnight.
Oh wait, I did not mean to do that. I am. Fuck. It's fine. It's fine. I did not mean to E at the end. That's on me. Okay, business. It happens.
one with nature.
I will
Let's do
have
this.
order.
I think it's probably faster if I do this. Never mind. What the fuck? How did they even end up like that? What? In what world?
Time to shine.
Stabilize.
Into the wind.
Can't run from death. Bow your head.
As one with wind and cloud.
Be sanctified. Settle down. Gather.
Strike a pose. Let my name echo.
The tides beckon. Silence.
Yoo-hoo! Time to shine.
Bow your head.
Fine.
Be sanctified.
Okay, I mean, that was alright. Let's try, do I want to try with Fischl or with Beto? If I'm doing Current Taser. Probably Beto. Don't know if it's gonna be good enough. We'll see. We will see. You remember when someone said Wanderer's mobility is as good as Nvidia? Yeah, I do. Keeps me up at night.
Silence.
Enhance animal module. Let the world come alive.
Solidify. Let the mighty be humble. Bow your head. Settle down.
Stand
You know, chat, I know this is a hot take, but I will say it every time I play this team. It's kind of, even though Kazuha is better than Sucrose with ÉMILIE, it is actually kind of crazy how much better Sucrose feels just because of the range on a character that like doesn't need to get close up to enemies. It just feels so nice to actually not need to get close to get your swirl.
Goodbye. But we'll meet again.
Yeah, and the short animations. It really does feel better. Okay, what the fuck do I do for this? Probably... Nope, that's the wrong character to swap to. Oops.
Hunt them down.
That's not Kazuha. Fuck. No, I fucked it up.
Shoot on sight. To ashes. Into the shadows.
Time for my coming.
Fallen leaves. Adorn my
Revelate a glimpse of the future.
No, my sword.
What a small fright. The power of flame compels
Kinda need to have the burst for this.
the fate of this world is gone. Hear the inferno. No.
That's okay.
Rain outlines your fate. Eyes on me.
Loaded.
time to go.
Into the shadows.
It felt comfy, but it was pretty slow. Compared to, like, traditional taser. But I also kind of fucked up my rotation, so let's try it again. Or are you using Finale of the Deep on her? Because I don't have it. Don't want to craft it just for her, and I wouldn't be able to get high refined anyways. Are high refines necessary? I mean, it's a lot better at high refine than at low refine. And if there are weapons that are slightly worse at high refine, then they're going to be slightly better at low refine.
Let the world collide.
Be sanctified.
Stand clear. Animal height. Strike a pose. Time to shine.
Gather. Bow your heads. The tides beckon.
Really? That doesn't cancel it? That's crazy. Oh, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Where do you think you're going? Let the world collide.
Be sanctified.
Found as one, like the 99! The eternal oasis at long last!
Yeah.
Witness the power.
How? Okay, there we go. I'm gonna get a Power Infusion. That's good.
Wind strike. Into the shadows. Evil looks. Shoot on sight. Loaded.
Fallen leaves. Adorn my nut.
I'm a little scuffed here, but it is what it is.
Time to testify. Loaded.
Yeah, that's okay. I still don't think it's better than the default taser, though. The default taser has so much more flexibility in the rotations.
Settle down. Solidify.
Animal test 6308.
Let the mighty be humbled.
Could have you bursted before, but it's okay.
Let my name echo in song.
Gather.
Stand clear.
Really?
Silence.
Absorption test.
Be sanctified.
Really? Really?
Stabilize.
Fucking hell, okay, whatever, but...
Settle down.
Stand clear.
He actually dashed to Narnia, holy fuck.
Strike a pose.
Whatever. Jesus Christ, okay.
Know my sword. Witness the power of Guhua. Huh? To ashes.
I kind of fucked that up, actually. I shouldn't have done that. No, 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 no! Fuck, my E expired! I was still holding!
Ring cutter.
And my sack sword didn't proc. Okay, dude.
Wind strike.
This feels awful. I'm gonna be honest, this feels fucking terrible.
Witness the power. Know my sword.
Into the shadows.
Gonna feel a lot nicer for this because these guys
Testify.
actually get completely fucked by taser.
Ring cutter.
Did you get so much stagger?
Eyes on me.
Into the shadows.
It's not even that good, honestly.
Evil looks. Shoot on sight. Ready.
Yeah, this... Oh, okay. I think that's a fucking no from me on this team, if we're being truly honest. But yeah, it's good for the first chamber, but fucking hell, man.
Bow your head. Stabilize. Bow your head. Be sanctified.
It's kind of crazy how bad this team feels against Simon. Okay, thank fucking God. Thank fucking God.
Rain outlines your face. Rain cutter.
Wind strike. Clouds high. The birds call. Loaded.
Okay, it should feel pretty good for this though, because you have like infinite damage reduction.
Ready. Time to testify. The wind knows.
Never mind, I don't have enough ER. I do not have infinite damage reduction when my ult isn't up.
Eyes on me.
Into the shadows.
God, I think we might. Nah, we'll be fine.
Witness the power.
As one with wind and cloud.
Evil look. Shoot on sight.
Eee! Ah, fuck me. Yeah, I don't have enough ER in my Beto, so we're actually not gonna clear in time. If I had enough ER, it'd be fine, I think, but yeah. This is fucking awful. It's so much worse than normal taser. I hate it. How much ER is she on? I don't actually know. Let's take a look. She's usually on 120. Oh, 150. Damn, and it still felt that awful, huh? Yeah, I guess Cloud's particle generation is kind of ass. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Like, it's fine for the first chamber, I don't love it for the rest. Yeah, like, it's probably gonna be fine with Farina, but I don't even think it's that good. Because Farina's worse than Singto for this chamber. Like, eh. I mean, it'll be fine, but yeah. Alright, I think it's time to record the post-release. Slash marker. Everyone say hi to YouTube.
right?
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome! Hi! To the client post-release analysis. Now, we've got a decent amount to go over. So, as usual, for the post-release analysis, we go through a pre-release video, see what we got right, see what we got wrong, see what we missed. And so let's get right into it. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the client pre-release analysis. I've talked a little bit about client in. We can skip the intro stat. We can skip the base kit explanations. Anyways, she has a lot of hits, a lot of quick hits. From what I've seen, it seems like post-nerf, you're still able to do 6 and 3 Es, right? So 3 pistol shots. Yeah, this is really tight, right? So if you're doing it just like at a baseline, let me this on. Okay.
Into the shadows.
Right, you can get 6 and 3E. It is doable, it's possible. I think that in practice, very often, your E would put you in a very precarious situation if you use it exactly at those intervals. So you end up sometimes delaying it a little bit. It can be difficult to actually get this full combo without looking at your bond of life and trying to do it exactly at the right moment. And so I think in practice, in most situations, you'll end up with 5 and 3E rather than 6. Enhance sword attack, that 6 times, which is a lot of total hits. That's pretty good. It also has normal ICD, which means he applies a lot of electro. Now, what does that mean? That means aggravate, and boy, does it mean aggravate. She is very much a unit that is balanced around her ability to aggravate. If she doesn't aggravate, she is somewhat underwhelming. Now that hurts her team diversity a lot, unfortunately. I've seen a lot of excitement for her, both in like hyper teams and in chivalrous teams. And as sad as it makes me, while she's not gonna be bad in those teams, she is gonna be kind of underwhelming. You can think of her as a slight downgrade to Raiden in those teams, basically. However, when it comes to aggravate and quick bloom teams, it's different. And honestly, maybe surprisingly, the main reason for that is her healing. If you are doing 6 enhanced skills in your rotation, that's 60% of your HP. A little bit over 60% of your HP per rotation. Are you wearing the same shirt? No, I'm not. What? It's literally not even the same color. A lot of HP. For a lot of people, that's actually going to be enough HP to not necessarily need to run a dedicated healer. And a very important point that I end up mentioning whenever I talk about aggravate teams for Animo units, for Electro units, for Dendro units, is that aggravate teams don't have access to great healing options, right? They don't have access to their own Bena. Their healing options are basically, okay, you can run like Kuki or Dori, and you're losing out on Fischl. You're losing out on a lot of damage. You can run Jean or Sayu or Xianyun, but you're losing out on your grouping and pretty significant buffs from either Kazuha or Sucrose. Or you can run Baiju or Yao Yao, but you're losing out on Nahida, which is honestly really fucking strong. And that's the one that people generally tend to gravitate towards. They generally tend to bench Nahida and use other units instead. But what having self-sustain in her kit allows Karen to do is be able to run teams that don't run a dedicated healer. This is so cursed, by the way. God, this is like what you see when you wake up, or like if you have sleep paralysis, like this is what you see right in front of your eyes. Anyways, to say a little bit more about this, I think I definitely do stand by the idea that she's not really that strong if you're not taking advantage of that healing. But the reality is that, like, to begin with, the units that I'm comparing her to when I say she's not really that strong, right, is like units like Katsing, units like Raiden and Aggravate teams, units like Yai to some extent, which are already relatively strong, right? It's not that they're the best units, but their teams do perform still quite well. And what that means is even if you don't take advantage of her healing, she still does have some pretty decent teams. And honestly, I do think I emphasize the importance of her healing a bit too much in my pre-release. Not because it's not important, but rather because a lot of people aren't going to find that healing to be enough sustain, especially against very aggressive chambers, like the one that was out on her initial release, which was the triple Genki chamber. It can be pretty hard to survive that chamber with her self-healing alone. And I should have taken that into account a bit more when I talked about her teams, and I should have mentioned the fact that even though she's not really that big of an upgrade over her alternatives, if you're also running a traditional defensive option on top of her, she's still very competitive with the other options in those teams. And so she's far from bad if that's what you have to do, right? She's just less of a standout. But yeah, that's something I definitely could have done better in the pre-release. To actually play her with Fischl, Sugos or Kazuha, and Nahida. And that's a pretty big deal. These are strong units that work very well together. Another interesting thing is healing bonus affects her in a very different way than basically any other character. Aside from maybe Arlecchino, but like whatever. Usually, right, you heal 10% of your HP, 30% healing bonus. Your total healing is just gonna be 13% of your HP. Wow. Whoop-de-doo, big f***ing deal. However, Florence healing works differently. It heals her based on a percentage of her bond of life, and that healing gets absorbed by the bond of life and the overflow. Now we can actually show this, so that's bog. Alright, if I... Close your eyes, chat. You don't want to see this. Editors, don't you dare put this in the video. If I were to somehow lose a lot of HP on my Klein for some reason, not quite sure what that reason could be. Anyways. Right? I start at 150 health.
Loading.
I get 3 stacks, and I heal for a tiny little bit over 2,000. Right? If I use a healing bonus circlet, which, like, that's not what you should be doing. Obviously, I was talking about healing bonus with Farina, but it's a very good way to show it. Oh, I've just healed over 9,000. That 35% healing bonus increases your healing by a lot more than 35. Becomes actual healing. In Clarine's case, she is healing 110% of her bond of life, and her bond of life is 105%. And that makes it so that without healing bonus, she's healing 10.5%. But with healing bonus, 10% healing bonus doubles her healing. 20% triples it. 30% quadruples it. Because the healing bonus applies to the healing pre-bond of life. It applies to the total amount that you would heal. Now, what I'm saying is not, hey, you should run a healing bonus circlet. No, God, no, please don't do that. But I am saying, if you somehow get a form of healing bonus in your team, it significantly increases her healing. And guess who gives characters in the team healing bonus? That's right, it's Farina. An often forgotten about part of Farina's burst is that it doesn't just give damage percent, it also gives healing bonus based on your fanfare. What that means is that, I mean, we've already shown it, so whatever. Let's Let's go move on to the next part. That leaves us with a character who has, honestly, two main teams. You're generally gonna want to play her either in Hyper Bloom or Aggravate. I don't think she fits all that well in any other archetypes. She will be playable in other archetypes, right? Like, at the end of the day, double Hydro Raiden isn't an amazing team, but it's definitely a playable one. And her damage is somewhat similar to Raiden's damage, basically without the energy restoration, if you're looking at unreacted damage. What makes her good in these teams is her better synergy with like the rotation timers and the higher elemental application. But yeah, so she's still gonna be fine in Taser if you want to. Like, it is gonna be alright. She's gonna be fine in like hyper teams, but like again, right, once you're starting to get a lot of attack, Bennett's starting like it doesn't apply to her A1, so you know Bennett is starting to look a little sus. So maybe more so in Chesseburgers teams than in hyper teams, but it's still gonna function in hyper teams, especially if you have like really high investment, really good artifacts, whatever. Like it's still gonna work. Honestly, you'll be able to clear. And then when you're looking at like dedicated to hyper bloom, where you're not focusing on Quicken at all, she's not good at it because she doesn't have any off-field application. So it's really mainly quick bloom stuff and aggravate stuff. But let's look at her cooldowns. She has a 16-second. Okay, so I think that overall, when it comes to her teams, it definitely is the case that the Quicken and the Quick Bloom teams are the better teams for sure. Although I will say, and this isn't really all that client specific, but the most recent Abyss lineup is very cringe. I'm recording this as of post Abyss reset, and so we have the new Abyss with the 7 waves on Chamber 1. And when you're looking at content like this second chamber, the DPS checks are still, like, they're not trivial, but they become a bit less important, and you start caring a lot more about certain application checks. And it makes it so that in something like this, for example, if you're, you really like Clahine, you have her, you want to play her on one of your sides, and you already have another character that you want to play on the first side, she is still going to be playable on that second team, but you're not really going to want to do her base, her optimal teams, basically, right? Because Quick Bloom, Farina's Hydro App isn't the fastest, so it's going to kind of struggle to break the shield. But it's still okay. The normal Quicken teams also, not the best app. And so that introduces the possibility of playing stuff like Taser teams with her that, again, aren't really the best when it comes to just damage because, she's balanced around her ability to apply a lot of Electro and trigger a lot of Aggravate. And when the reaction you're triggering is Electro Charge, which is gated by only being triggered on enemies at a specific interval, rather than every time you apply the element, and also just does less damage, then obviously you're losing out on a decent amount of that damage potential, and your teams are doing less. But in a situation like this, where the DPS matters a bit less, and the application matters a bit more, that can still be an upgrade to your team when it comes to the clear time for this chamber alone. I will say I've done a little bit of testing with Clahine Taser, and it really, really feels not very strong on Chambers 2 and 3. Definitely feels like there's a bit of damage missing, but it is actually quite strong for Chamber 1. And so that's something to keep in mind, right? If they do keep that direction, which I don't know if I like, but I'll talk about it more in this Abyss's meta roundup, which you can subscribe button down below if you're looking forward to that. But if they do keep doing stuff like, a lot of elemental checks, a lot of, very specific situations, multi-wave, it can very much change which teams end up performing better in those chambers, and when those chambers are the hardest in the Abyss, like is the case for this current Abyss's Chamber 1, that matters a lot. It makes it so that those suboptimal teams can actually become optimal in some situations. And so all of this fucking long ass wind up to say, just because a team isn't one of the best two teams doesn't mean you should dismiss it altogether when it comes to like whether or not it's worth using. There can be situations where a suboptimal team is better. I don't think Klein is the best option when it comes to the second side of this abyss anywhere. I don't think she's anywhere close to the best option. I don't even think she's the best taser option. However, for a lot of people that doesn't matter, right? A lot of people, they have a character they like and they're like, I want to play this character, but I mean, I already have it, like I'm playing, I don't know, Arlecchino, Mono Pyro on the first side, and I can't play that shit on the second side, right? So I want to play Klein here, so like, what am I supposed to do? Well, keep in mind that can be an option for you. Anyways, let's keep going. Cooldown on her skill, 15-second cooldown on her burst, which means that at a baseline she can try to fit in a 16, more like 17-ish second rotation. That doesn't work the best with Farina because Farina's skill is 20 seconds, so it's gonna desync in ways that are gonna... Oh, actually, before we keep going any more than that, I think a very large consequence of that is something that you've probably heard about. You've probably heard about the Chi-Chi team. I'm gonna get this out of the way first. The Chi-Chi team is not a very good team for her. Right? The amount of damage that you gain if you're using Skyward Blade, even with Chi-Chi, that Skyward Blade isn't really her best weapon. Because the damage that you gain from it just isn't that high. It's not a good team when it comes to damage. But that's not that big of a deal when you're playing in content that is a lot more designed around killing you than around being a high DPS check. Like the triple Genki that we had in the previous Abyss. That was a chamber that was very much, hey, we are going to try to kill you, but we're gonna have one wave of like around 1 mil HP enemies. Which is, compared to something like the current Abyss, Chamber 12-1, much, much, much squishier. It makes it so that things like playing the Chi-Chi team, which is by all means a very suboptimal team that isn't that good, it's still gonna feel pretty decent to play in content that's designed around something other than just a strict DPS check, right? So the Taser team does really well against something like this, that is more balanced around elemental application. And similarly, that Chi-Chi team that people are playing, it does relatively well, because it's a very, very solid defensive option that's going to prevent you from dying against content that is trying to kill you. It's still not the best option against content that's trying to kill you, right? It's more so like, hey, I have Chi-Chi, I want to play her, what team can I play her in? It's a team where she kind of synergizes to some extent. But yeah, so I'll leave a link down below to Jamie's video on the Chi-Chi team, so you can go check that out if you're curious about it, if you hadn't heard about it before. But yeah. They're going to be really annoying. It works fine with Aggravate, but you're also getting a little bit of desync with Fischl this time, with her duration being 12 seconds, and that just meaning that you're at 2/3 uptime instead of the hypothetical 100% uptime you can get with Fischl at C6. Almost 100%. You could try to do some weird desynced rotations where you don't Farina skill every rotation, and I can see that functioning as well. Like it'll work, however. And if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you know what's coming. There is an artifact set that can reduce your skill cooldown. And oh boy, how I've missed you, Thundering Fury. But it's time. It's that time again. That's right. Especially with the uptime nerfs, or the duration nerfs that happened in the last iteration of the beta cycle. This has made a one skill rotation you know, a bit weaker. But with TF, you can proc it a few times and actually get 2 skills in your rotation. And instead of going for a 16-second rotation or like 2 16-second rotations with 32-second rotation, you can do something like a 25-second rotation to play around Fischl's uptime. Or a 20-and-something second rotation that plays around other characters' uptime if you don't want to use Fischl, right? If you want to use Beto or something. It's gonna be hard to make it all the way to 20. It's gonna be hard to get enough TF procs for that. And just you have 15 seconds of uptime, which means that it doesn't work. Like 5 seconds isn't really enough for the rest. So it's more going to be something like 22-ish, but it's still going to work. And yeah, I think honestly, this is great. This is amazing. This is Spog. You can end up doing basically use your skill. You do it normally. You swap out, refresh Oz, maybe refresh Nahida or whatever, and then back to her again. And yeah, that's just gonna work. I'm really hyped for that. We are finally getting another TF carry. Now, I will say, you do lose out on a decent amount of damage, just like strictly looking at her personal damage over one elemental skill. Going for Whimsy instead of TF is gonna net you around 25% more damage. That being said, you get 2 E's, and your rotation is also longer, but it's not 2 times longer. From what I've looked at, I am expecting the TF rotations to have somewhat similar personal damage in practice, while also having higher team DPS because of the better synergy with your support's uptimes. However, it's not such a huge significant difference that you absolutely need to farm TF. I would say if you already have a good TF, it is not worth farming Whimsy, because in many situations, TF is just better. You already have a good Whimsy because you got really lucky and you've started farming it for Arlecchino, and you don't have TF because you never got around to it or you started playing more recently. It might not be worth getting TF. And if you don't have either, TF's accessibility in the strong box can let you get it without having to farm directly for her, which is nice. And both of them are with another artifact set that doesn't do too much right now. It is okay. So first, and both of the burning set can be better a bit now that we have some leaks on ÉMILIE, who very much can use it but doesn't necessarily need to. You can look forward to the ÉMILIE pre-release, but basically ÉMILIE is an off-field dendro damage dealer, and if you can have Deepwood on someone else, she does enough damage that you would like to put her on this and someone else on Deepwood, but it's completely viable to just have her on Deepwood as well. It's not a... If you can't get someone else on Deepwood in the team, it's very similar damage for her to have the Burning set or Deepwood. Them are with another artifact set that doesn't do too much right now. It is also worth noting that TF will be much easier to play because short rotations rely on you using your stuff exactly when it's on cooldown, and it matters a lot more when you use them. A 1 second time loss in a 16-second rotation is a bigger deal than a 1 second time loss in a 25-second rotation, just in terms of... One thing I don't think I ended up mentioning here is how much nicer that those TF procs can make multi-wave content, right? So, I mean, it's very easy to show it in the current Abyss, right? When you're against enemies that aren't like the tankiest, but you do need to use your skill to kill them, you're very often going to end up in a situation... I didn't get an Electro Swirl. I don't want to talk about it.
Clouds high. The birds come.
Okay. I don't want to talk about it. Visual Burst can get a little clunky as a source of op in AoE, but that's okay. We'll just do this.
One with wind and cloud. One with nature.
Into the shadows. A sharpshooter.
Right? Where you kill the enemy pretty quickly and you lose out on a lot of your skill uptime. And it makes it so that the next wave, right, you don't have your skill, you don't really have a good way to deal damage. With TF, generally, by the time you've reapplied your setup on the next rotation, your skill is going to be back up. Without TF, very often you're going to have to wait a little bit. And that makes it so that in practice, TF very often performs a lot better in multi-wave content.
Wind strike. Loaded.
Alright, so here we've got our first wave.
Midnight
We reapplied our stuff.
Clouds high. The bird
Into the shadows.
Especially against a wave that's that as squishy as it's like here we want to swap out. But obviously, if all we do is swap out like this way, we come back. Here because we have TF, we get to use burst and then immediately get back into it. And without TF, you're gonna have to wait a little bit, which is gonna make your multi-wave stuff feel a lot worse.
Coming was foretold.
as you wish, main Fräulein.
And raise a storm!
That being said, when you're against non-multi-wave content, or if each individual wave has, you know, is actually like relatively tanky, you can end up in situations where the whimsy 1E rotation is like just barely enough to kill the enemy, and the TF rotation you would need 2 E's for it. And when that's the case, the whimsy can still perform better in multi-wave. Basically, all this to say, in practice, most of the time TF is better in multi-wave, but there can be multi-wave content designed around making whimsy better. While we can skip the constellation stuff. Anyways, let's get into the weapons. First off, Absolution, a signature weapon. Really consider one of these 3 weapons. I did not include Scoured Blade here because is that Festering Kazuha? Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I needed 5 on my Farina. Okay, shut up. I didn't talk about Scoured Blade here because it's not all that great. But a lot of people are kind of talking about it now, so I'll just address it very quickly. Scoured Blade is not a great option. The ER that you get from it doesn't really matter too much, and the motion value that you get from it isn't even that big of a deal when you compare it to the base motion value that you already have, right? If you're crowning her, you're getting 76% plus another 60%, so over 130 motion value on each gunshot, and a little bit over 100 on each sword hit, which makes it so that the motion value from Scoured Blade is like not even a fifth of your motion value, and it's physical, so it doesn't benefit from your VV, it doesn't benefit from any of that stuff. It can benefit from Superconduct if you're playing Chi-Chi, but again, that's not really enough to justify playing that team when it comes to just the overall damage that you do. It's overall just kind of worse than the free-to-play options, but if you like seeing all the numbers on screen, then it's not that much worse, so you can still use it. It's okay. Weapons, Flying Drawer a little bit ahead if you're looking at Quicken teams, and Iron Stick and Umbrella a little bit ahead if you're looking at Hyperbloom teams. But don't craft. Alright, artifact sets, yeah, really, like, generally try to stick to either TF or Whimsy, and if you don't have either and don't want to farm for them because you already have a really good Glad or something, that's okay. I don't think I have much to add to this. For teams, I think I've already talked about most of the stuff I wanted to mention. Why? Taser. What? Editors? Want to explain that to me, editors? So, I guess I'll also want to talk about ChesseBurgers, Hyper Carry, Taser. So, and then I guess I'll also want to talk about ChesseBurgers, Hyper Carry, Taser. Editors? No, but I think overall, what was my, like, Quick and Official healer list, Quick and Official with healer, Quick Bloom Farina healer list, Quick Bloom Farina with healer, Hyper Bloom. Yeah, I mean, again, right, when you're playing against more aggressive content, like the previous Abyss, these teams with healers, or maybe not necessarily healers, but like, defensive utility options, right, stuff that gives you interruption resistance, which is something that I've had a lot of people mentioned to me that they don't like how she doesn't get resistance or interruption during her E, and it's definitely something that can be felt against aggressive enemies, right? That lack of resistance or interruption, if it means that you get hit and staggered, means you lose damage, and if you lose damage, then obviously the team isn't as good. And so getting those defensive sustain options can actually make your team clear faster in those situations, right? So against the previous Abyss, with triple Kenki, these teams with I say with healer, but again, right, it's with a healer or other defensive utility option, are generally going to feel better, sometimes even better than those optimal teams. And in something like the current Abyss, where there's an elemental check, these taser teams that are like less optimal are also going to feel better than the quote-unquote optimal team in some situations. But yeah, I definitely should have emphasized this a bit more, that like she's still strong if you're playing her with Baiju, for example, or with Kirara. Like, she's still strong, just not as strong.
I've faced
In any case, I believe that is going to be it for the post-release. I think overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the state line is in. I think she's definitely a bit on the weaker side, when you compare her to other recent releases. But I mean, that's mainly because recent releases are, you know, Arlecchino, you know, and obviously compared to Arlecchino, she doesn't quite pack that same punch. But even if she is on the weaker side, she's far from weak. I think that like the biggest thing I was wrong about before her release isn't how strong she is, it's how fun she is. I really expected to have more fun playing her than I ended up, or than what ended up happening. I think she's a lot less fun to play than I expected her to be. The playstyle just, I guess, isn't for me. And I kind of regret going for her because of that. But that's obviously a very subjective thing, right? Just because I don't enjoy it doesn't mean you won't, and just because I enjoy a character doesn't mean you will, right? I like playing Sucrose a lot, and I know a lot of people fucking hate her ass. And like, that's fine. It is what it is, you know? But yeah, all this to say, relatively strong character that doesn't really stand out from the rest of the roster, but that's okay. She doesn't need to. She's still pretty strong. Personally, I'm not having as much fun as I hoped, but hopefully that's not the case for you. Let me know if you are enjoying her as much as you thought you would, or not. Make sure you subscribe. You know, come follow me on Twitch, watch these live, and ask me any sort of questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, YouTube. Okay! I can't. Chat, I'm getting a little tired. Is the enemy go a decent option instead of official? It's gonna be a lot worse, but if you don't mind the team being worse, then that's fine, right? Like, you don't need to have optimal teams for most of this game's content.
Will usually rest on rainy days, but not the hunter.
Alright, anyways, let's...
Hopefully, that was the sound of one more villain being removed. A duel.
I am going to be posting a video on the second channel, so as usual, if you can find it directly on Zajef78, it's gonna help with the algorithm a little bit more. But if you're too lazy, I understand.
Because you will
The video is now posted, and here is the link for you guys to go watch it.